Everybody's here. Everybody's on this list. Will Hunting is here. Freaking Barry Lyndon is here.
Oh, nice. You haven't
Michael
seen Good Will
Clayton
Hunting?
is here. No, I've seen it like in bits and
Michael
pieces.
Clayton's a movie I have to see too. I hear great things about that one.
Lady Bird is on there.
Nice.
The
In my
General
top
is on
10.
there.
Oh my God, the general fucking rips.
Let's just
You're
bang
gonna
these.
you're
I'm gonna
gonna
bang
you're
all these
gonna
out today.
lose you're gonna lose your shit when you watch the general.
I don't think so,
I think
actually.
so.
All right.
Sort of the Mad Max Fury Road of its day.
I mean, it's only 15 minutes, so not bad.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners.
Yum, yum.
Oscar Wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners,
Yes.
the only show on the internet where Hollywood's biggest night is from the Bronx.
You bet your sweet ass it is. I'm so excited to
Um,
be here, man.
I work at the Copa.
You sure do. In fact, I saw you there last Tuesday, was it? I couldn't quite get in. I just kind of saw you through the window. The bouncer wouldn't let me.
I was bodyguarding for Jimmy the Bat.
You know Jimmy the Bat?
Yeah.
Yeah, we go way back.
Um, I'm jazz.
Wow. Incredible to have you on this show, frankly, Mr. Jazz.
I am the genre jazz.
And I'm, of course, you all know me. I'm Kelly Blue Book.
Really good.
Thank you.
No, I'm Michael. He's Ander.
Hey,
This is a podcast where every week we pick a Best Picture winner at random and try to figure out if it's Best Picture worthy. And this week we are talking the 2019 Best Picture winner, Green Book, directed by Peter Farrelly. You know Peter Farrelly?
no.
Peter Farrelly is he directed like There's Something About Mary. He directed Dumb and Dumber. I'm not kidding. He directed Shallow Hal or Jack Black.
Okay,
Yeah.
that
That
that's
one rang
the
a bell.
Yeah, I like Jello Al. It's a
He
good
fucking
movie. I like
directed
Jack
Stuck
Black.
on You
Soon,
with
I don't know what that is.
Matt Damon. Basically, him and his brother Bobby Farley throughout like kind of the late 90s and then like up to like the late 2000s. He directed Hall Pass with Bobby Farley, his brother.
Okay, nice.
They sort of were the writers and directors of these like gimmick comedies, or like I guess like these sort of like there's like a log line that's easy to like there's like a bit. It's like, oh, this one is about these two guys who are idiots. I mean, that doesn't sound exactly what I'm trying to say, but like, or like
I've
Stuck on You is like these two conjoined brothers, and it's like they're
okay.
fucking
So you're
comedy
saying
thing
that that's
into
Green Book, is what you're saying?
Peter Farley, Jesus, branches off from Bobby, and he makes his opus. He makes Green Book,
Nice.
which
So they're
is based on,
brothers.
yeah, they're brothers.
So they're
Um,
just trying to make Daddy happy, or what?
Pardon?
Well, they both got into movies.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few brother. I mean, we were just talking before we started this episode. We were talking about Coen brothers, the Coen brothers. You got the Hughes brothers,
Nice. Mario Brothers.
the Marx brothers. Green Book is fucking about based on a true story.
Oh,
Tony Lip,
classic character.
played by Viggo Mortensen, is a bouncer at the Copacabana in 1962 era New York
When I found
or
out that
United
was
States, whatever.
Viggo Mortensen, I lost my noggin.
You're like, that's Aragorn? There's no
Viggo.
way.
There, I was truly in disbelief.
Yeah, he sort of disappears, and you'll believe that he is actually Italian.
You will believe a Vigo can fold a
Mortensen.
pizza in half and eat it.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's a detail where he gets into bed early in the film, and like he's like getting undressed or whatever, and like he's in his boxers, and of course his like little wife beater, and like
Yeah,
I know that's sort of a term that people are trying to phase out, but
but that's what Tony Lip would have called it.
yeah. And he gets in bed next to his wife, and he like he have socks on. He like wipes off his
Nice.
feet, and I'm like, that's such a Tony Lip thing to do.
He really immersed himself. He
Yeah,
went,
he's like, I have crumbs on my feet that I have to get off.
yeah, he got method for sure.
Sorry. Um, it's a movie about Tony Lip, who's a bouncer in at the Copacabana. 1962. The Copacabana is closing for renovations. He's looking for work. Obviously, the Italian mob is like real. They're in their heyday during this period.
Yeah, thriving.
But it seems like Tony doesn't really, he's sort of adjacent to them, but doesn't really want to get involved. Like he's sort of more of like a family guy. He wants to like keep out of trouble as much as he can.
Love that show.
He wants to punch people legally, not illegally.
Right.
Um,
He's a bit of a legal pugilist, so to speak.
so he's eventually hired by a famous pianist, Don Shirley, played by Mahershala Ali, to drive him through the deep South as Don Shirley goes on his like a tour. He's in a what is it called? What is a three-person band called? It's not called a
Trio.
triplet. A trio.
A trio.
Jesus fucking Christ. Thank you.
You are jazz. Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm really fucking it up. I'm more Ryan Gosling in
La
what's
La
this fuck?
Land.
La La Land.
Yeah,
I'm sort of a pasty, unknowing jazz.
First of all, don't you dare call Gosling pasty or unknowing.
I'm sort of a blight on the genre, if you will.
Honestly, more power to you.
um, yeah, and that's the story. And as they're driving, they drive. Fucking Tony's driving Don through the South, and they're encountering racism. And Tony's sort of he's set up as sort of a prejudiced guy against black people. And of course, by the end, everything works out just fine.
It
He's
sure
like, come
does.
inside for dinner. Have dinner with my Italians.
Here they are, my Italians, my familia.
Yeah. So that's the fucking premise. Andrew, what were your expectations going into this movie? Have you never? I don't think you've ever seen it, right?
No, never seen this before. It's the only history I have with it is kind of just using it as our personal punching bag throughout this podcast, which I do feel a little bad for considering we hadn't seen it prior to this. The whole time I'm watching, I'm just thinking about what is it that made Spike Lee leave the Oscars and vacate his seat. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to, and I get it. I do get it after watching it. It's a very easy narrative about racism. But also I can't help but like it. Like it's also I think it's a good movie. I think it's funny. I like the characters. I think they're endearing. But I understand why it's categorized as problematic.
I also like this movie.
Yeah, it's well made and good, and the actors are good and fun.
I like you said, I see all the problems with this movie. I think it's like way too concise, and it's way too simple in terms of its exploration of race relations, racism. But I think it's like a wildly watchable movie.
Yeah, totally. And I think, some people will argue that makes it sinister. The fact that it's so watchable and also like kind of a false commentary on racism. I didn't get the feeling like this was made with malicious intent or anything like that. Like that seems a little out of, a little bit ridiculous to me. Um, I think, I think old Farley was just trying to make a nice little family film, and maybe it does come across as Oscar baity, but it is a nice movie. It doesn't really push you to think differently, but it was good and it was well made, and I liked the characters in it.
I wonder, I think maybe people rag on this movie so much because it won Best Picture.
That's fair.
Because there are people who probably have seen this movie or will watch this movie and like I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but like who will watch it and be like, "Oh, this is like kind of new to me."
Oh,
Like what
absolutely.
I'm thinking of white people.
Oh yeah.
Um
Well, yeah. I guess the argument is that a white person will see this and be like, "Okay, now we are absolved."
yeah.
And that's obviously the wrong interpretation. But like, I don't think there's anything wrong with making a movie I don't know. It's just nice, I guess. And it's a little overly simple, but
To me, this movie feels irrelevant. Like
yeah,
especially the year it came out. In 2024, it feels even more irrelevant.
yeah,
In terms of what it has to say. At the same time, I'm like, I don't know, maybe sometimes, and I also understand. I want to be very clear that I understand this movie is made by a white guy. It's like a very like it feels like the movie about race made for white people.
yeah. It
Um,
does.
but I guess I was like trying to think like, oh, maybe like this kind of movie needs to be made sometimes to remind the people who like may not know like the basics. I'm thinking, again, white people. I'm
Yeah,
only speaking to the whites.
the basics
Um,
meaning like this is how. I
yeah,
mean,
like racism
like this is how we
exists.
should. This is how
We
humans
should,
should
you
treat
should,
each other.
yeah, you shouldn't treat people like poorly ba at all. Like as long as I don't know, it's yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess you should kind of know that from the rip, but I get it.
it is sort of exploring its characters like more thoroughly than I thought it would have. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe we don't have as much backstory on uh Doc Shirley as maybe I would have liked.
the one thing that I think the movie is exploring that's like maybe a little complex and like obviously I wish there was more of it, is like late in the movie, Tony and Don are driving. Um, and Tony's basically like ragging on Don for being like, and this stuff I find offensive in the movie where he's like, oh, you don't listen to
Each,
like music made by like your own people. You
yeah,
don't eat the fried chicken thing is like egregious and should be
yeah,
like
it's a
fucking
little.
buried underground.
It's like
Clip that out of the movie and bury it in the fucking earth.
force feeding a black man fried chicken is like a little too much, I think.
Yeah, it's fucking absurd. And Tony's like, I'm almost blacker than you are. And it's
That's
just insane that
crazy.
he says that. But I do think the moment that comes like immediately after that where Don makes him stop the car and he gets out and is like walking like just into the night in the rain or whatever. He's like the one interesting thread is Don is like, I play for all these white people and they like sort of want what I have to give them because I'm very talented. Like he's basically like they say it he was like 3 years old and like a prodigy. Like he was like always good at music.
Yeah,
And these white people want what I have, but like, they won't let me use the bathroom in like their house. They want me to use like the fucking outhouse. It's like my skin color still prevents me from like reaching through white, society.
he's trying to find this sense of belonging. It seems like throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and then he's like, and he was also gay.
Right.
It's like, and then he's like, and also like I'm not man, and then people say I'm not man enough, because obviously he's not interested in women.
What I like about the movie
And
though is that it doesn't just tell us these things, like it also shows us, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
shows it shows the juxtaposition between, he'll get into a fight at that bar, I think it was like in Louisiana, and then it cuts to, a crowd giving him a standing ovation at this concert hall. The fact that they have these things so placed so closely to each other, it's pretty striking actually, and it hammers what he's saying home.
yeah. Yeah, I just think that thread's interesting of like his character being like, I don't feel like I belong anywhere.
Yeah.
And the world makes me feel like I don't belong anywhere. And it's like, but I'm like a person, so like I have to belong
I have
somewhere.
to be somewhere. I need to
Like,
exist, actually.
yeah, it's like I don't know. Yeah, it's like, can't I be black and be really good at like white people's music or whatever? I don't know. I think that thread's interesting. I think the movie's a little bit repetitive, even though I never mind watching it. It's just like they go to a location, people are racist.
Yeah.
Tony Lip's like, "You kidding me? You won't
Are you
let him eat?
joking?
He's gonna play for you. You want to let him eat in the fucking restaurant? You fucking kidding me?" And then they leave, and they same thing happens, like slightly different somewhere else.
Does Tony Lip strike you as perhaps like the target audience for this movie? Like the guy who's like he means well, but doesn't have a full grasp on the struggles that black people are facing, and but still ultimately aims to defend him because this is his friend. Like I almost get this sense like this is almost who the movie is targeting.
I think that's a great point.
Because Tony Lip is not inherently, he's not like, he says racist things in the movie, and obviously his family says some pretty insensitive things as well, but he's ultimately a good guy. Like he seeks to help Doc at every turn. I mean, obviously they have some points where they butt heads, but
I was sort of surprised by that because, the first like 25 minutes is just like establishing Tony's like life and like his social circles and
yeah.
etc. Him looking for a job. And there's that one scene where like I forget what they're fixing. Are they fixing like the sink or like they're like plumbers or something, or they're fixing something like these two
Yeah.
black just like workers. They're fixing something in Tony Lip's house. They come over and like his entire family is there, like all these men, because like they don't trust these like two black guys.
Yeah. They're like, Tony, what are you sleeping while these guys are in your house?
Yeah.
It's like, and he was like, yeah, I was tired.
Yeah. And like then these two guys, like his wife gives them water. They drink out of the glasses. Tony Lip throws them away. But that's like the only, I mean, he does say things too that are like racist, but like that's like the only action that he does that's like, what I'm trying to say is once he's with Don Shirley, he basically starts changing immediately. And I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be like more of like a butting heads thing, but it's more just like he's like able to get along with him even though like he has this initial prejudice.
Well, they do butt heads. I mean, but it's funny because it's not always, they don't butt heads on issues of race. They butt heads on issues of lifestyle. Like when Tony tries to take the stupid little green rock from that store, and then Shirley is like, put it back and all that stuff. Plus there, the scenes where, he's smoking in the car and whatnot. Like it's clear. It's funny to me because as soon as he gets in the car and they embark on the trip, within 15 minutes, they're arguing about shit, like tiny shit. And it just, that feeling is palpable. It's like you start a road trip with someone and immediately you're arguing. You're like, this is going to be bad news. But it gets me excited as an audience member because I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. We're all, because they are on this trip for what was it, 8
2
weeks,
months.
I think? Yeah.
Yeah.
And within 15 minutes, he's like, please don't smoke in the car. And Tony's like, oh, I can't smoke in the car. It's out the window or whatever. They're fighting over stupid stuff.
Then there's a later scene in like the motel room where like Shirley's like Tony's smoking and Don is like, can you put out the cigarette, please? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you didn't like it. And it's like he's been saying the whole time. Like, do you not listen or like...
Tony's like constantly, his character is just a guy who's always trying to get away with something. Which I kind of like, and maybe it's also probably stereotypical Italian, which maybe isn't cool, but like,
no, this is an accurate representation of Italians.
Okay, we got our seal of approval actually. I mean, he does fold an entire pizza and eat it, so I can attest to that.
I have done that before.
Yeah, of course. Who has it? It also deserves to be said that this is the first movie we've covered that has a hot dog scene. I feel like that's entirely relevant to our
yeah.
conversation.
I forgot
And
about
it's a
that.
great,
Yeah.
honestly, probably my favorite scene in the movie.
He eats like 26. He's like, God, that Paulie, he could really put back the hot dogs. And his wife's like, you bet $50 on a hot dog contest? She's like, you lost that money? He's like, I didn't say I lost.
So
I ate 26.
it's so, I was laughing my ass off. I watched it a couple of times. I was like, this is so good. The whole build up
yeah.
too, because he does the fight against that guy, and his brothers Sebastian Maniscalco is like, what do you weigh? And the guy's like, I weigh 260. Your left ass weighs 260. I love it. I'm borrowing every single line from it. It's such a good scene.
Sebastian Maniscalco is the most Italian man. He wins Italian of the
Truly.
Year.
He's
'Cause
the
he
Italian
remi-
prime
He
minister.
just,
Yeah.
reminds me, like at one point, it isn't funny. It's like offensive, but like I did laugh. He says like, so Tony starts writing like his wife letters, and Don is helping him because Don is actually like educated, and Tony's like, I don't fucking know words. He spells like bullshit wrong. Like he doesn't really know how to. He's like kind of illiterate.
BOOL.
So Don starts kind of basically dictating these letters to Tony to write to his wife, and it cuts back occasionally to the wife. And she's like reading them to let me give her name. Let's not just call her the wife.
Yes, the wife.
Yeah, Dolores, played by Linda Cardellini. Dolores is like reading these other women like in the family or whatever, like, you know, sisters-in-laws and whatever. These letters, and she's like, and one of the sister-in-laws says to Sebastian Maniscalco, who I think is Dolores's brother. I think that's supposed to be
Yeah.
the brother-in-law. But she's like, how come you don't write me letters like that? He's like, I'll write you a letter when you make a meal. And I was like, that sucks. But like that resonates so hard. Like that's something that just like I feel in my bones.
Right.
That like somebody has said around me, and I'm like, yeah. I think this movie is like Italian caricatures that like feel true though. It's weird.
I see a little bit of the shallow Hal shine through in this piece. So I like that
Yeah.
you mentioned that, because
It's goofy.
it's got comedy chops. Like there are
Yeah.
a lot of funny moments in this.
I wanted to ask, do you think Tony Lip, I wrote down he either shits 3 times a day or once a week?
I would say, oh, it's such a good question. I would say 3 times a day.
Okay.
I think. Well, it's fun. Well, you know what though? I feel like they would show it. I feel like they would have a scene. Maybe this is the director's cut, but I feel like they would have a
Him in the
scene
toilet.
where you know Shirley is doing some sort of concerto, and then you know Tony Lip is like, "Excuse me," like this really nice like a ballroom or something. He's like, "Excuse me, is there you got a shitter around here or something in a newspaper?" I feel like they would. I feel like that's what's missing here. That's really what's missing.
Honestly, yeah. Tonally, that would have totally slotted in just anywhere.
It probably would have, actually.
Um,
I like how sincere this movie is, and it's kind of funny to me how people shit on it, I think, for that reason. It's almost like, well, you know what? I think people associate with sincerity with naivete, which I do understand. I think it's a little bit of both, and I don't think sincerity is a bad thing. I do think maybe it's a bit naive.
it's willing to just be like, by the end, they're friends. I don't know. It like really commits to its worldview.
Yeah, it
And I
commits to
guess
friendship.
Yeah. I don't know.
Listen, we're not anti-friendship.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm anti our friendship. That
Mhm.
should be stated. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's mutual.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Mahershala Ali is really good in this movie. When is he bad?
Oh, there was that one time when he was online at the bank and he was like, I'm just making a deposit, and then like he cut the line, and it's like, Mahershala, you really gotta wait your turn. You know, these people were here. You shouldn't really do that.
He won Best Supporting Actor, which I would not say this is a supporting role, but I understand why he's slotted into that category because it is sort of told through Tony Lip.
In terms of his impact and influence, it was certainly not a supporting role.
Yeah.
But I think the way the movie's framed, I think Vigo is probably the lead.
He's playing such a caricature of Italians and like commit an Italian man commits so hard to it. I should say an Italian American New York man. It's very
Yeah,
specific. Um, he commits so hard to that and is playing such like a big caricature that the review said like it kind of circles around to like having like truth to it, and that's exactly how I feel about it. It's like
interesting.
it's so it's such a big like goofy performance that I'm like, oh no, this is true though. Even if it's like even if it's just playing on like Italian American New Yorker stereotypes.
He felt like a real guy. Like, yes, he was a caricature, but he still felt like a real person.
Yeah.
And I think that's good writing. And I think it's, I think it attributes to the level of the dialogue and character interactions. It felt real. Like if we're talking about reviews, some people were comparing this to Crash. I don't see that at all. Like Crash, nobody spoke like a human being. This
Yeah.
felt more real.
Crash is like a disaster, and this is like
This is a disaster. But people slot it next to Crash. They're like, this is as big of an abomination. But let it be known that Crash is a much worse movie than this.
I think at least this movie like has things to say. Like this Green Book actually has like concise things to say about race, whereas Crash like doesn't really know. It's just saying like everybody's fucking bad and like who knows if we'll ever figure it out. And it's like, okay, I guess. It's just, but it's I'm like cool with that kind of story. I mean, we don't have to relitigate Crash. I'm cool with that kind of story. I just don't think like that movie does it well.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think after Goodfellas, I mean, you haven't seen it.
I told you it's on my list.
You can
I haven't
feel
seen The Matrix yet.
I haven't seen The Sopranos, but I wrote down after Goodfellas and after The Sopranos, like, do we need movies about these kinds of Italians anymore? Like, I do feel like the stories that have like plumbed those depths to the greatest effect have been told. Obviously, this is based on a true story, so it's like, what are you gonna do? But like, I'm just like this representation of these kinds of like New York mob adjacent Italians. I'm like, we've been there. We've done that.
I don't think it's about that, though. In fact, I think
Yeah,
actually this
true.
movie does a good job of trusting its viewer, and because it has obviously these, the mafia is involved to a certain extent, but it's not overt. Like when that mob boss is in the restaurant, like asking Tony to do a job for him, like, oh, come work for me while the Cobra's out of commission or something. Like, why Tony doesn't want to do it, even though it's not explicitly stated. It's like, okay, well, these are going to be mob errands, probably some of the shady shit that fucking On the Waterfront was doing. Whatever, what's his name?
Marlon Brando?
Yeah, but I
or
forget
Johnny
his character.
fucking yeah, I don't remember.
All right, $5 to whoever can comment his name. And as far as stories being told that are maybe redundant, I don't know. Tell stories. Tell whatever you want to tell. Like, express yourself, man. Farley.
It feels like somebody who like has seen these things, like Scorsese, like kind of grew up around these like sort of like he grew up in a neighborhood that was like with like these like sort of like mob crime guys, and like so he like saw this shit, like he knew these guys.
And this is the movie of the guy who's seen those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it like
get you.
loses its like authenticity.
Yeah. Totally understand.
Peter Farley's never had a penny olive vodka. You know what I mean? Like he's just never.
Peter, we fucking dare you to try a fucking eggplant parm, huh?
He's never dipped a fucking slice of sesame seeded Italian bread in some balsamic and olive oil. You know what I'm saying?
And why is that? What is he doing out here? Does
I
he
think
care about
I think
movies
he
or
hates
what?
Italians.
He hates Italians.
Another just we're jumping around. If you have any points, shout them out. Another thing I hated was like, at one point they're pulled over by the cops and it goes terribly, and Don is able to get them out of it because he's friends with Bobby Kennedy, and that's kind of sick. Because Tony punches the cop because he's a dumbass. And they're in like a sundown town in like fucking Kentucky or something. And then later on, there's a scene where they're driving home after the tour, and they get pulled over, and it's like a cop's like, you think it's gonna be bad, of course, and then the cop's like, he's like it's almost like they're like on edge, like Tony and Don, and the cops like almost
Yeah,
like,
what are
is
you
there a
guys worried
problem? And
about?
he's like, yeah, you have a flat tire. I'm a good cop. And I'm like, that sucks.
The entire end of the
Don't put that
movie.
fucking propaganda in this movie.
Yeah, that was wild. But
Propaganda.
nice. Hey, nice.
I'm the only person who said that before. It's cool.
The whole end of the movie is like we're it's just we're tying things up so easy. Like things it almost seems like it gets lazy and uncomplicated towards the end. Because like you have that cop interaction where it's like, okay, heavy eye roll, and then you have he comes home to the family, and you fully expect that there's gonna be some trepidation and some tension and maybe some words exchanged or whatever.
When Don comes over,
They have biases and prejudices, so you expect that to be explored and maybe some butting of heads.
yeah.
But it just wraps up very nicely, and they're like, "Oh yeah, come in, Nona made a turkey or whatever. We got the snapper and whatever."
I mean,
Um,
let me tell you, no offense to Don, once he leaves, they are talking some shit.
oh, say it ain't so.
The Italians are polite when you're in their home, but then once you leave, they're like, that son of a bitch.
And that's the problem.
Italians are the problem.
Well, I didn't say that. But it
I
does
said
feel like the movie. It feels like Farley's just like, oh shit, we can't have any more narrative tension. We got to. The movie has
Yeah.
to end now.
People just have
So
to be nice all of a sudden because like we have to send people out on like a high.
yeah, and as far as the message of the movie goes, it definitely damaged what it was trying to say.
That's all I have to say about Green Book.
Me too.
2.5 stars.
Oh, we don't. Well, what we didn't mention? What is the Green Book?
It's this thing that black travelers around the US would like use in order to like, oh, this place is like allows black people or like isn't this restaurant isn't like
Right.
horrible or whatever. Like it's not racist or it's not like people aren't gonna fucking chase you out.
Right.
Basically just a way to stay safe as you're traveling through. I don't it wasn't just the South, right? It's like sort of like a guidebook like throughout America or like at least like most of it.
Yeah. But I did get the sense like the Green Book is kind of this racist artifact. Like it didn't seem like it was created by black people. It seemed like it was made by white people to be like, here are places where you can stay if you're not white.
Oh. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's actual historical context to it, but that was my
Yeah.
interpretation.
Right. Yeah, I don't know the history, unfortunately. Should have Googled it.
No.
The nominees that year. You don't actually so you don't know why Spike Lee walked out.
Well, I do a little bit. Black K Klansman was nominated, wasn't it?
Yeah, Black Klansman was nominated. Here's the thing though.
How do you pronounce it? Is it just Black Klansman?
Yeah, I think the KKK is just sort of a
Okay. Just like
I guess you could say Black KKK Klansman, but it's
it's a little bit of a mouthful, I guess.
yeah. It's more of a visual gag than it is
Yeah.
like a actually saying it.
Yeah.
We'll start with Black Klansman just so I can give a little bit of the history
Okay.
of why Spike Lee was so pissed. So Green Book is a lot like this movie Driving Miss Daisy, which we'll one day cover. Came out in '89. It won the 1990 Best Picture Oscar. It's the same thing where like Morgan Freeman plays like I think it's Sally Field. He plays like her black chauffeur, or I think again I haven't seen it. And she's obviously this older white lady. And it's sort of about she comes to respect this black man during like I don't know when it's set, maybe like the 50s or 60s. A very simple, easy narrative that the Academy loves. And the same year as Driving Miss Daisy, Do the Right Thing came out, which is maybe it's like the best American movie ever made is what I have to say. And I think it fucking slaps. It's on Peacock, I think, if anybody wants to stream it.
Damn.
You can also watch Parks and Rec while you're there.
Simulcast.
And Do the Right
Picture
Thing
in a
wasn't
picture.
yeah. And Do the Right Thing wasn't even nominated that year for Best Picture.
Oh, okay.
Which is insane. And so this year, Spike Lee gets nominated. he's up again against the same fucking bullshit. It's like
Yeah.
fucking, it's almost 30 years later, the same fucking movie gets made. Or yeah, 30 years later. And it wins, and apparently I guess he like started to walk out and people were like, no, like just like I know it sucks, but like I think people were like coaxed him back in because like I don't know, maybe they were thinking about how it would look if he walked out. Obviously, it's like disrespectful, and it's like I don't know, maybe the way the Academy treats Spike Lee is disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He was upset.
Also, Black
Everyone,
Klansman is better than this movie.
I haven't seen it, but I have to imagine it's. I mean, you could probably speak better to it, but like it's probably a way more complicated portrayal of race in America, and probably
Like-
a more affronting to the senses of white people.
Yes, I'd say the second part. I've only seen it once. I don't think it's like a masterpiece. I do think it's better than this movie, than Green Book. I mean, it's a movie that like, especially like post-Trump election, it's like really like making fun of racist whites, and having fun at their expense. Almost the way of like Inglourious Bastards has fun at the expense of like Nazis, like really like
Right.
fucking lays in on them. It's the for anybody who doesn't know, it's the story of Ron Stallworth, played by John David Washington, who's a black police officer in Colorado Springs, who infiltrates the Ku Klux Klan over the phone and uses Flip Zimmerman, played by Adam Driver. Adam Driver's like the body stand-in.
Right.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's good. I recommend it. Next up is Black Panther.
Whoa.
Also egregious that Green Book won the year that Black
Wow.
Panther came out. Arguably the best Marvel movie.
That's.
And like, I don't know.
Is this the only Marvel movie nominated for Best Picture?
I think so. And like Black Panther actually has like interesting things to say about race.
Yeah. And
You know?
also
It's like interested in exploring that shit.
yeah, plus it had an entire cultural movement behind it.
Yeah. I mean, it made like $1 zillion.
And maybe one of the best soundtracks out of any movie I think I've ever
yeah.
seen.
Absolutely.
If you count it, it's my favorite Kendrick Lamar album, actually. Yeah,
I count
it's a
it.
really
He was
good
he was
movie.
like the main creative force behind it, right?
Yeah, but obviously it's a collaboration with a bunch
Right.
of different artists.
Right. So yeah, Black Panther rules. Should have won over Green Book.
Do you think Hollywood will? I guess Hollywood's not the right. Do you think the Academy will ever give an Oscar to a Marvel-esque movie?
The way they're fucking trending, like Quantumania, you know, like I don't know. I'm just like,
But what about like do you think a Barbie ever has an actual chance of winning a Best Picture? Something that's like a huge fan favorite that still has some. Because I almost feel like that's kind of where we're seeing more of that type of movie where it's like, here's a huge fan favorite movie, and it has some actual meaning interwoven into it.
right.
Obviously the ultimate goal is to like sell toys and shit, but so maybe that's also kind of corrupted its own weird twisted way. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think a movie like that could ever win Best Picture?
Honestly, don't know. Because I thought of, obviously like the two Avatars were nominated, and I was
Yeah.
thinking of James Cameron. I was like, oh, well, Titanic won, and that was like a fan favorite. Like people were like, even like, like teens were obsessed with that movie. And it's like this like
These fucking
3.5
teens.
hour fucking like historical epic. I do think that movie has the benefit though of like, I think
History.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's like it is like sort of it's a romance, and it's sort of like a disaster movie. It's like the second half of that movie is basically like an action like movie. You haven't seen that, right?
No, not yet.
God, I can't wait fucking till you fucking watch Titanic. But I do think like the reason it's like respected by the Academy is like, oh, this is based on something that actually happened or whatever. And it's like there always has to be like that tinge of like the respectability of like realism that I feel like a lot
Right.
of these movies like need to, a lot of the shit the Academy votes for.
Yeah, but is a movie that doesn't take itself so seriously ever going to win Best Picture? I almost feel like you have to have a little bit of a stick up your ass in order to win.
It has to be a qualified fun. It has to be like
Yeah.
fun parallel or like in concert with fucking like serious shit.
Yes, you're right.
Should we move on?
Yes.
Bohemian Rhapsody,
Wow.
made by a sex criminal,
Wait, what?
made by
Who made
Bryan
it?
Singer, who's a fucking monster,
Oh, really? I didn't realize this.
and then Rami Malek. I think
Whoa.
won Best Actor. No, he's
Wait a
fine.
second.
He's fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, well, Remy Malek's not a sex criminal,
No, no,
right?
no. As far as I know, Rami Malek's cool. I've never seen this movie.
Oh,
I will never see this movie.
Oh, why not?
I just think it's like probably like historical movie bullshit where it's like they're like, I've heard people say it's just like, fucking Brian Mays, the guy who plays Brian May is like tapping on his knee and then he's like, and Freddie's like, that's Bohemian Rhapsody. And it's like that's the whole movie. And it's like that sucks. That's stupid.
I have seen it, and it is very much like that. Yeah, not too far off, actually.
Yeah.
These movies, they try to get into the headspace of people that like were real and existed, but we're gonna fabricate actual moments that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't. I don't know.
Next up we have The Favorite. Yorgos Lanthimos. Emma Stone starring.
Is this Poor
Film.
Things 1?
Yeah, it's Poor Things 1. It takes place in England in the early 18th century. It's about the close relationship between Queen Anne and Sarah Churchill, that becomes threatened by the arrival of Sarah's cousin Abigail Hill, resulting in a bitter rivalry between the two cousins to be the Queen's favorite.
Is it like Poor Things, where they're kind of like maybe being a little silly, a little kooky, a little crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Yorgos's vibe.
Yeah.
Can I be honest?
Go ahead.
I've only seen The Lobster. I don't think I like Yorgos's whole vibe. I don't think it's for me.
I love The Lobster.
Okay.
But I also kind of agree with you. I thought Poor Things was good,
I haven't seen it. I still have to watch it.
but his whole thing kind of got a little bit. It's like, all right, I get it. Like, we're being crazy and off the walls here. We're all having fun, letting loose, but I'm a little bit exhausted.
Yeah, yeah.
The Lobster, I think, is a very different movie. It's very understated, but also very silly and wild.
Yeah.
I like The Lobster a lot.
Okay. Maybe I'll go on a Yorgos marathon just to see if I like the guy.
A Yorgathon.
Yeah, Yorgathon. Next up, we have a movie that I've been meaning to see since it came out. It's literally on Netflix. I can watch it anytime, but I have not. It is
That's your right.
Alfonso Cuarón's Roma,
Oh,
which is set in Mexico City in the 1970s, and it's about two domestic workers who help a mother of four while her husband is away for an extended period of time. It's heavily based on Alfonso Cuarón's childhood, where like he's sort of I think the movie is like him imagining what it was like for like the women who worked for his family, like what their lives were like.
oh, so it's not based on a true story,
No. Yeah.
but loosely, I guess. Like it's his life, kind of.
Right.
Okay.
Next up we have Bradley Cooper's directorial debut, A Star Is Born.
He sure is. God damn it.
Tell me something, girl.
So what's the trifecta of Green Book beaters in your opinion? It's Stars,
Black
Corn?
Klansman, Stars,
Yeah.
Corn, Black Klansman, and Black Panther.
Okay. Yeah.
Final nominee. An Adam McKay joint. It's Vice,
Oh,
in which Christian Bale plays Dick.
Dick.
Um,
Wow. Okay. I forgot
movie
this. Yeah, that's right. I forgot this was nominated.
A movie I'll never see. Have you seen Dick or Vice?
I've never seen Dick or Vice. Thank you very much. I'll also never see this. I mean, it was one of those things.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the trailer for it and being like, "Oh shit, that Christian Bale really knows how to transform himself." And I feel like that's really the only appeal. I've heard it's kind of like wild. And
I heard it stinks.
oh, really?
Yeah.
It seems like it would be entertaining. I don't really want to watch it that much.
Yeah, I mean Adam McKay, he's like the Step Brothers, the Anchorman guy, but like
Oh, okay.
in the last like 10 years he's sort of pivoted to like more like politically minded movies. Like he did The Big Short, he did Vice, he did fucking what's that asteroid movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and
Oh, Don't
Jennifer
Look Up.
Lawrence? Yeah,
Yeah.
just one of the biggest nothings you ever saw.
Don't Look Up. I
Yeah,
thought that was okay. I thought it was good.
yeah, it's fine.
We'll
Yeah,
talk
so-
about it in the 2021 Best Picture winner episode.
I think it was nominated, so
Oh, really?
yeah, I think
Interesting.
so. Yeah, so those are the nominees. Star is Born should have won. Black Panther should have won. Black Klansman should have won.
Just another example of the Academy missing the point.
Yeah,
And I feel like they've done that so many times.
and patting themselves in the back when they think they got it right. It's like, nope.
Yeah. Dude, is that their attitude? Like, they're like, yeah, we nailed this one. Or are they like, I don't know, we just like this movie and fuck everybody else? I almost respect the latter more. If they're like,
Right.
we like this movie, fuck all y'all.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what those fuckers are thinking over there.
But you know what? It doesn't matter what those fuckers have to say.
No, not
Frankly,
at
it
all.
doesn't even matter what you or I have to say.
That's true.
What matters is the opinion of the people, particularly of the internet. Would you like to hear what the people have to say
Absolutely.
about the Green Book, or just Green Book? No, drop the.
It's cleaner.
I got some reviews that I found from the internet. Give me the name of somebody who's jumping off the high dive today, because it's a nice little day outside.
Michael Phelps.
Oh, good one. Michael Phelps says, Dose, 2 stars. This was such a shallow movie. Maybe a Shallow Hal reference, I don't know. Comparable to Crash. It killed an evening, and I enjoyed seeing Kentucky pop up across the screen with ominous music like it was the final boss of racism. Like I've said 1,000 times, I think this one is relegated to the years from 2016 to 2020, where everyone was just a fucking idiot who liked dumbass shit. Thank God the economy's gotten worse since then, because now people have more important things to worry about instead of how to be so sanctimonious and heavy-handed.
I love that review.
Yeah, good review. I like the idea of of boss music coming on when Kentucky appears.
Oh God, it's what the fuck's the guy from Legend of Zelda? Galatron? Galactus?
Oh no, dude. Ganondorf.
Ganondorf.
Or
Fucking
Ganon,
same
depending on
shit.
his form. You said Galactus.
I said Gallendorf, man.
No, you didn't. You said Galatron. Like he's a fucking transformer. So, and that's a cancellation from you.
Fine.
Give me the name of someone named someone that Adam Driver's best friends with growing up.
Michael Truck.
Michael Truck absolutely says half a star. Green Book, more like bad movie book.
That's
That's the whole thing.
nice.
That's the whole review. Thank you, Michael Truck. That's really all that needed to. That's all that needed to be said.
Keep on trucking, baby.
Keep on trucking, baby. Give me the name of someone who's from Lithuania. Eleanor from Lithuania says 2 stars. This film did for racism what Joker did for mental health. This extra star is for Mahershala Ali and Mahershala Ali only.
How many stars was that?
Dose.
You know Mahershala Ali's playing Blade, apparently?
Yes, I did.
If that movie ever comes out or gets made.
Weirdly enough, I almost thought that it did, but I guess we're still waiting on it.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
there
I
was a
remember hearing
director
about it
attached.
like years ago.
Yeah, it got announced maybe like 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Then there was a director attached, and then that director left, and then there was another director attached. It's just like now it's all these fucking Marvel movies because I don't know, they can't keep their directors happy. Because
I guess I'm next.
tyrants. Yeah, honestly, they might hire you if you fucking threw your hat in the ring. They might.
I am available.
Next week we're gonna talk about All About Eve. Next week we're gonna talk all about Eve.
Nice. Actually, hold on. Do it one more time. We're going to get
Yeah,
a clean,
let's get a
clean take. Yeah, let's get a clean take.
Next week we're talking all about Eve.
Wow. That was
In
so
1949, 1950s, All About Eve.
cool. It sure is. It sure was. That was the year.
Brother of Herman Mankiewicz, who wrote Citizen Kane. Joseph
Mank.
L. Mankiewicz writes and directs.
What's with this brother shit?
At
These
least I think
movie
it's
bros.
Joe Mankiewicz, but we'll see.
Cool.
I hear it's good, so we'll fucking see.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
In the meantime, open a green book. Not the green book, just like get a book that has a green cover.
Drop the
Put a hot dog in there and just snack on some paper. Dry. You don't need any dress. You don't need any dressing.
So
You
not
don't
the
need
dog?
Yeah, just dry dog.
So you're eating the dog, not the paper.
You're eating the dog and the paper, of course.
Okay. Delicious.
Yeah. See you next week. Wieners.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners.
Cut out that story I was telling about how him saying, "Why don't you cook a meal?" was funny. Just cut that out.
Well, it was fun. I mean, like,
It was
I get
funny.
it, though.
It reminded me of men I've experienced. And
Yeah,
known.
I don't think it came across any other way. I don't think
Okay.
it didn't come.
I'm not
it
like it's
wasn't
funny that
you
he
were
said
like,
that to
I
his
love
wife.
that he was like, make me a sandwich. It's like, I get it.
Yeah. All right.
Wife never made him a sandwich. Jesus Christ.